Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the We're Not Stumped podcast. I'm your host, Mike Bolland, and today it's headlines, top stories, however you want to talk about it. Some things that I found by looking over the internet, which all of us can do, but I'm looking over the interweb to share some stories that kind of sparked my interest, and I want to share them with you. And I also have another organization that I came across and actually have a personal connection to that I want to talk about. So we'll get into that today. But this is for the week of January 6th. Today is January 9th. I'm recording this a day prior on January 8th. So what I want to say is thoughts to everyone in the LA area with the fire that's going on. Terrible news. I hope everything works out like everyone else does. But so far the images are devastating. So definitely thoughts going out to everyone in that area from the We're Not Stumped podcast. So let's get right into it. Number one, I want to talk about the newsletter. Sign up for the newsletter on we'renotstumped.com. Go ahead and do that. You'll know whenever these new episodes are released. I don't spam. I only email when new episodes are released. They're typically twice a week. Tuesdays is the interview portion of the podcast, and Thursdays, of course, is this portion of the podcast. And speaking of Tuesdays, I just recorded 2 yesterday, and they're going to be a lot of fun. I interviewed Kelly Mendenhall, who has a term called medical gaslighting. It's something that she went through where she unfortunately lost the ability to really maneuver herself, and her ability to move was impacted, and she was told that it was all in her head. It's a fantastic story. That one's going to come out on the 21st because she's doing very well now. Great conversation. Really had a great time talking to her. And Nicole Cuervo, I interviewed her yesterday as well. She's from springrose.co, and she has come out with a line of bras where people with one hand and other types of abilities or disabilities can put on their own undergarments. It's a fantastic story. Great person. We talked about her product and her entrepreneurial journey. It's just that one's going to come out next week, next Tuesday on January the 14th. So mark your calendars. But you don't even have to mark your calendars if you go to we'renotstumped.com and sign up for the newsletter. So let's get into some of the stories that I found interesting for the week of January 6th of this year. And here's the first one. Marine vet double amputee finds peace in Jiu Jitsu. The Semper Fi and America's Fund guided him back into civilian life, which included participating in the sport of Jiu Jitsu. This comes out of San Diego. This is courtesy of KJTV and a gentleman named Steve Smith. Julian Torres spent 7 years in the Marine Corps. And here's a quote from him. It was very gratifying to be able to don the uniform for the United States and to be able to serve overseas. That's his quote. Back to the story. However, on July 15th of 2010, a day Torres will never forget as it changed his life forever. He was returning from a firefight when he took one wrong step. I stepped on a blast. I saw a light envelop me. The blast threw me up in the air where I saw my shadow on the ground. It was like Donkey Kong. Wow. Life for Torres would change forever as he lost both of his legs in the blast. 3 days later, he returned to the United States to begin the healing process and return to civilian life. He connected with Semper Fi and America's Fund, which eventually led him to the sport of Jiu Jitsu. What gave me the courage, and this is a quote from him, what gave me the courage was seeing some of my other friends that were double and triple amputees doing this. And I was like, hey, if they can do it, I just need to be able to solve this riddle for me. That's a very, very good lesson there. We all have different journeys and paths as people in the limb loss community. Try to understand how these things can benefit you and how you need to navigate your own personal journey. So let's get back to the story. Torres admits that he had a few doubts. And another quote from him. How are my prosthetics legs going to fit in this equation? What is it going to look like? What's it going to be like if I'm having trouble with my fit and I can't walk and I'm going to need someone to carry my stuff from the car? Those doubts were quickly erased as Torres has been competing in Jiu Jitsu for 2 years. He gives all the credit to Semper Fi and America's Fund. And I think there's a few other stories that I've done on this podcast where I've talked about both Semper Fi and America's Fund. So I don't have that information right in front of me. if you look them up on Google, if there's something you want to support or something that you need to help support you, go to both Semper Fi and America's Fund because they seem to be doing things right and they're helping a lot of people within our community. Okay, back to the story. While you're still drying off from your wounds, they take you into society and help you transition into society. While you are drying off from your wounds, they take you into society and help you transition into society, and they really welcome you in. The nonprofit has led him back to society and found a new life within the Jiu Jitsu community. And the final quote from Mr. Torres: "To me, this is a place of peace. Yeah, it's hard, it's physical, it hurts, and it's a language of pain, but it's just undescribable." Well, congratulations, Mr. Torres. The people from Semper Fi and America's Fund, keep doing the great things you're doing. You are definitely helping out the community, and certainly in more ways than one. So here's story number 2, and this one goes back a couple weeks, but this was pretty cool. Amputee Center welcomes Santa to the holiday program, and this one comes from the Parkersburg News and Sentinel. And who is it courtesy of? It says staff reports. So unfortunately, I can't give a shout out to who actually did this story, but it's a good story nonetheless. And it's something, I've talked about this amputee group before, probably about 4 or 5 months ago. And the person, I invited the executive director out. Our schedules just haven't meshed, unfortunately, but there's still an open invitation. So here it is. This comes from Parkersburg. The Amputee Center in Parkersburg held a special holiday program earlier this month to celebrate the Christmas season. Again, this is about a month old, but still worth sharing. The Amputee Santa program was held December 14th at the center at 2311 Ohio Avenue. So if you happen to be in Parkersburg, this is where the event took place, with a variety of activities for center members and others. The activities included a holiday craft and coloring session, a visit with Jim George, the Amputee Santa, okay, Christmas cookie decorations, aerial art performances, and photos with Santa. Kat Lane Bigley, and that's actually the director I was talking about. We've been in correspondence, but unfortunately our communications or our schedules haven't meshed. But Kat Lang Bigley, the center's executive director, said an amputee Santa is important for celebrating inclusion, representation, and community. Children with disabilities often grow up feeling different, unseen, or misunderstood, she said. Seeing someone like Santa, an iconic, beloved figure, who shares a part of their journey, like using a prosthetic leg, sends a powerful message. You are not alone, you are seen, and you are valued. I'm going to do a little time out here and kind of give my own perspective on that. Yeah, to a certain extent. I'm glad she said children with disabilities often grow up, because sometimes I think people outside the limb loss community think we're all a bunch of depressed people sitting in a corner. And that's far from the truth. And that even goes back to when I was a child. Sometimes I get the impression that if it wasn't for people thinking we're just a bunch of people that are shut in, and maybe some of us are, I get it, that you wouldn't have any reason to help someone or something along those lines. At the end of the day, I'll be honest with you, if you have limb loss, have confidence in yourself. You're allowed to do that. You don't need to have representation necessarily to feel included and to have confidence in yourself. You are the representation. You're allowed to walk into a place with one leg, one arm, one hand, no legs, and be confident and feel good in yourself. These are great programs, and I love it, and I think they are helping. I hope they're helping. But sans those programs, without those programs, if you're not able to attend, or someone like me who wasn't privy to these things when he was younger because they didn't exist, you're still allowed to exist, and you're still allowed to have confidence. So believe in yourself and keep going, keep moving forward. All right, I'll get back to the story. Research shows that representation boosts self-esteem and confidence in children, especially those that face societal barriers. When kids see an amputee Santa, they see someone who looks like them, proving that a disability doesn't define their ability to spread joy, love, and kindness, Lang Bigley said. Again, I'll go back to this. If you have limb loss, if you're new into this limb loss community, or you're born into it like I was, you are allowed to have confidence. You are allowed to believe in yourself. And you are allowed to try new things. Keep that in mind. Getting back to the story, for children without disabilities, meeting an amputee Santa is an opportunity to learn about diversity in a positive, heartwarming way. It opens up the door for conversations about challenges others face and teaches acceptance, empathy, and the beauty of every individual's unique journey. That's another thing we need to do within our community. Be out there and be someone who is accessible and being able to have those conversations. So I really do like the fact that this amputee Santa was out there doing his thing. That's going to help the conversation. So for more information on this is at the newsentinel.com. Look up amputee Santa. I bet you'll be able to find it. If you're, it'll be in the description. All the links to this information will be within the description on both YouTube and all of the podcast channels. So lastly, I want to talk about an organization that I came in contact with when I was at a disability function up in Flagstaff in October of last year. I met a lot of great organizations up there. This one is fantastic. And I ended up meeting a person from this organization that is just one of the coolest people you ever want to meet. I'll get to her in just a second. But this is called Diverse Ability Incorporated. And let me tell you their mission. The mission of Diverse Ability Incorporated is to create, promote, and access equity, inclusion, and brave spaces that celebrate diversity and infuse representation and foster wellness within individuals, communities, and systems. And they can be found at diverseabilityincorporated.org. So let me tell you a little bit about the person that I met up in Flagstaff. Her name is Audra Paletta. She is fantastic. This person, I mean, what a we just kind of hit it off right away. We're sitting there talking a lot of the time in Flagstaff. We ended up meeting for coffee here in beautiful Mesa, Arizona, just early in December, if I'm not mistaken. And she has an ear. She has, I can't remember the name of the type of ear, like hearing aid she has. It's implanted, if I'm not mistaken. I don't want to misrepresent her, so. But she's just absolutely fantastic. And, a little side note, this kind of cracked me up. So what she told me when we met in Mesa, she's like, Mike, when I met you in Flagstaff, there was something about you. It wasn't your name or anything like that, but there was just something about you that you were like very familiar to me. It's like I had met you before. Well, as it turns out, her grandfather, and this probably dates me as much as anyone, her grandfather was a huge fan of the movie The Trial of Billy Jack, which, for those of you that don't know, as a child, I was 8 years old, I played the part of Danny in The Trial of Billy Jack. So she has seen that movie many, many, many times. And in a recent email correspondence we just had, she said, oh, hey, by the way, my dad remembers you as well. Like, well, no one really remembers that movie. Certainly no one her age generally does, but it's great to see. One of the things I want to talk about is an event they have coming up that I'm pretty excited about. And if I can get there, I will. It's on January 15th, which is next week, Wednesday, January 15th. This is the Arizona Youth Ambassador Showcase. And again, this can be found on disabilityincorporated.org. So I'm going to give you the description of this, but they have a lot of different events and a lot of different things going on. This is all about making sure the young people feel represented and they come together. And I tell you, this is such a great organization. So here is the description of the Arizona Youth Ambassador Showcase, which is going to be January 15th from 5 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. And I don't have, unfortunately, where it's going to be. I'll look for it I'll look for it as I read here. The Center on Youth Voice, Youth Choice is a resource center for youth who have disabilities. They talk about how you can have control over your decisions after you become an adult. One of the ways you can do this is by using alternatives to guidance, which is, I guess, it's called A2G, and there's a link to it on their website. The Center on Youth Voice, Youth Choice does research, advocacy, and education about alternatives to guardianship. They also support youth and how they have taken disabilities about alternatives to guardianship and working together. Hear from the Youth Center on Voice, Youth Choice, and Arizona's Youth Ambassadors about the great work they are doing around supported decision-making and other alternatives to guardianship in their state. So if you are interested in learning more, go to diversityincorporated.org. Go to their events, but this is a very good website. They talk about their team, their services. Let me talk about some of their services real quick. They have something called the Arizona Youth Academy. I'm going to click over to that. The Arizona Youth Engagement Academy is an intensive training experience designed to build capacity in youth and young adults who have a variety of disabilities and diversities to prepare them to assume leadership roles, provide peer-based training, navigation, and support, as well as facilitate learning opportunities on a variety of topics in a variety of formats and for a variety of audiences. Yes, please go to this website, diverseabilities.org, support them, learn more. And if it's not something that you are able to partake in or support however you're able to, do me a favor, just share it. They're doing great things here. And on the flip side of that, are you doing great things? Are you included in an organization that you feel is doing great things, not only for the limb loss community, but it could be for any of the disabled communities? Email me, mike@we'renotstumped.com, or just go to we'renotstumped.com, fill out the contact form, and I will get back to you. It is my pleasure to showcase as much as I can through this podcast, including Kelly Mendenhall and Nicole Cuervo. Like I said, I just interviewed her and some of the great things they're both doing to help their communities out. So that's it. That's it for the headlines, top stories, whatever you want to call, for the week of January 6, 2025. I'm your host, Mike Bolland. As I always say, everyone, please have a great week.